Hey everyone, it's Jeff, and right now NBA is pretty boring to be honest. March Madness just happened, and that was a lot more exciting than anything that's happened in NBA for the last month basically. And just lately, there's been a lot of blowouts. Like LeBron's injured, Kevin Durant's injured, James Harden's injured. There's not many storylines to talk about, and even the MVP race, which is surprisingly competitive, is still kind of boring right now. I'll probably talk about that sometime later. But that's why I decided to talk about something else besides recent NBA developments. So I thought it'd be fun to just take a look at some recent NBA draftees who are just kind of bad so far. And obviously, they're not busts yet, but it's time to start considering them in that range, whatever. And first, let's do Jared Culver. And to be honest, this was not a great draft pick. So he was number 6 overall in 2019. But just looking at the people who were drafted behind him, Minnesota didn't exactly miss out on anybody special. It was Kobe White, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish. It gets worse when you look at Tyler Herro and PJ Washington a few picks later down the line. But in the immediate vicinity, not really anybody special there. But yeah, so Minnesota needed a wing, so they got Culver. And for some reason, a lot of NBA scouts, I guess, on the internet said that he was one of the more pro-ready prospects. And to be honest, I didn't really understand that because he didn't really shoot the 3-ball particularly well in college, and he was kind of like a point forward, right? So the way I was thinking about it is, well, he kind of just seems like Evan Turner to me. And Evan Turner is cool, but I don't know, I wasn't that excited about him. And yeah, Culver's just kind of struggled to do anything at a above average NBA level so far. This year he's averaged 6 points per game and 3.5 rebounds. Also shooting 40% from the field, 22% from 3, and 61% from free throw line. So all in all, he's one of the NBA's worst players, basically. And a lack of a jumper is really what's hurting him the most, I think, right now, just because, the Timberwolves, they already have some guys who can't shoot, but are just, defensive, high-energy guys, right? Josh Okogie, Jared Vanderbilt. But I would say, those guys are still even better on offense than Culver because, Vanderbilt, he can't shoot, right? But at least he can roll to the basket and, do some screen-setting stuff. And Okogie actually isn't that much better, but my point is, there's already 3 non-shooters there, and the way the Timberwolves operate their offense is kind of annoying. And before Chris Finch was hired, back when it was still Ryan Saunders, there was a lot of just D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley dribbling around and just jacking up outside shots, right? And Anthony Edwards kind of experienced this when he first got into the league, where they kind of just put him in a corner and didn't make him do anything. And for someone like Culver who can't shoot, that's pretty much a death sentence on offense because he doesn't demand any defensive attention. And so Culver's best with the ball in his hands, right? But even though that's his biggest skill set, I guess, because he is still pretty good at attacking the basket, and he has some moves when he's going downhill. So I think if you put him in some pick and rolls and just get him going downhill, he can kind of do some things for you. And apparently he's a good passer. To be honest, I've never seen that before in his career so far. But everyone online is telling me he's a good passer, so maybe he is. I don't know, I'm not a Wolves expert. But the problem is, why would the Timberwolves give Culver the ball when they can just give the ball to Beasley or Karl-Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell and just have better, outcomes? And it's not like they can just have Culver run the second unit because he's still not good enough to actually run an NBA offense. And that's kind of my point. He just doesn't do enough for you on offense. Yeah, he can kind of go off the dribble and attack the basket, but he can't really shoot, so he's not going to be a particularly great off the dribble threat overall anyways. And he's not a good enough ball handler, penetrator, whatever, to actually be a consistent part of your offense in terms of moving the chains. Defensively, he's pretty solid, I think, actually. He's got good size. He's relatively disciplined. He gets caught on some pretty bad fouls, in my opinion, where he's not actually fouling, but they just call it a foul because he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. But once again, he's not good enough at defense to justify playing him over someone like Jaden McDaniels or Anthony Edwards. But yeah, there's not much else to say. Right now, I don't think he's an NBA player in terms of actual ability. I don't think it was Ryan Saunders' fault because I just don't see how he's able to contribute positively in the NBA right now because he doesn't have any marketable skills. Maybe later in the future, of course, but right now, I'm out on him. But moving on, let's go to number 2 on my list, which is Jackson Hayes. And to be honest, I'm actually pretty confident that somewhere down the line, Jackson Hayes will kind of carve out a career for himself because I still think he has the skills to be a center in the NBA. And to be honest, this wasn't really his fault in terms of he was just placed in a really shitty situation where the Pelicans, for some reason, they drafted Zion Williamson with the first overall pick, right? And he's a big man who can't shoot. And instead of, I don't know, drafting a guard or something like that, or a wing, they drafted a center who also can't shoot. And if Zion was like really good on defense coming into the league, maybe it would have worked. But the problem is like, it's just impossible to play two young bigs in NBA at the same time. Like I said, center is the hardest position to play on defense in the NBA. And for most like young centers in NBA, there's a learning curve. Like I don't think anybody in recent memory has come into the NBA as a center and just been a great impact defender right off the bat. Like Joel Embiid was pretty good his first year in the league, but he also sat out for 2 years before that. And he kind of learned how to play defense in that time span too. Take a look at Robert Williams right now, who's only just starting to figure out how to play defense, and he's like 3 years into his career. So if you're an NBA team and you're drafting like a center that doesn't have great like offensive skills, I guess, and he's like young, be prepared for him to not be an impact player until his like third or fourth season, because that's what you get. It's so tough to play center right now in NBA because of all of like the spacing and switching on defense. And when they made this draft pick, I questioned it because it didn't make much sense to me. And like right now, Zion isn't great on defense, right? So you can't play the two of them together or else you're going to get killed. And offensively, it doesn't match either because like, yeah, sometimes it's fun because you can kind of envision like Lonzo maybe throwing alley-oops to both of them, but neither of them can shoot. And you just can't play two non-shooters at the same time right now in NBA. It's not 1990 anymore. But the reason why I still think there's some hope for Hayes still is because, once again, like I think Robert Williams is kind of encouraging the fact that he was able to develop slowly but surely over like 2-3 year span. And Hayes has like the physical tools to become this great NBA defender. He's 6'11" with a 7'4" wingspan. That's great, physical attributes, I guess. And he's a pretty good athlete too, and not just in the sense of like he can jump really high, because like yeah, he can jump really high, but also he's pretty mobile in terms of just like fluidity and end-to-end quickness, where he can run really fast, and it's kind of Clint Capella-esque, where he's a lot quicker than most guys at his size and height. And especially in his rookie year, like there were some stretches where, before Zion was in the game, of course, that Hayes would just play like some great basketball over like a 2 to 3 minute stretch where he's blocking shots, he's setting great screens on defense, he's rolling hard to the basket. And you can kind of see like in those glimpses where how this guy makes a career for himself in the NBA as this kind of, just this rim runner on offense who sets screens, gets alley-oops and putbacks, and is a vertical threat there. And on defense, he's protecting the paint and can even switch onto the perimeter pretty well for a guy his size. Obviously, he hasn't been able to do it consistently or else he'd be playing right now, but I do think there's still some hope for him. Okay, number 3. I'm going to go back to the 2018 draft now, and this is going to be Kevin Knox, who I think was 9th overall, I believe, and I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was taken literally to pick right after him at 10, so that really hurts because, well, for obvious reasons, right? Because SGA is amazing. And to be honest, I think Knox is kind of past the point of being on the bust radar. He's more of just like a bust right now. And, it's really surprising actually, because I remember Knox played like really well in the summer league the year he was drafted, and a ton of people were calling him the steal of the draft. And at the time, I wasn't really paying that much attention to him. So like I was just like, okay, whatever. And he was supposed to be this like 6'8", 6'9" wing who can just shoot and score and go off the dribble, kind of like Paul George right now. And obviously that hasn't happened. He's actually been a pretty good shooter so far in his career overall. Like even his rookie season, he was shooting like 34% from 3, which is pretty good for a rookie, to be honest. And like this year, he's shooting over 40% from 3 on limited attempts, but still good percentages, right? And that might prolong his career. But as for like why he didn't succeed, I guess it's, for like one thing, I've heard a lot of people talk about how he just doesn't have the confidence / aggressiveness. And it seems to be like a character issue because like dating back to Kentucky, there were kind of like observations about how he would take some plays off on offense where he would just be content to just sit in the corner and not do anything. And I guess that might have flowed into his NBA work ethic where perhaps he's just not working hard enough in the gym. So there's that. And also like defensively, he was possibly like the worst defender in NBA his first 2 years in the league. Like he was just downright atrocious. Off ball, on ball, it didn't matter. He was pretty much getting picked on whenever he was in the game. And he's got good size and length. Like he's got the prototypical body for an NBA defender, to be honest. But it just does not seem like he cared. And like overall, it seemed like in both offense and defense, he just seemed kind of lost in NBA. The game just feels like it was going too fast for him and he just wasn't reading stuff properly. And it's definitely a shame because he had the, abilities to be a pretty good NBA player. Like I said, he was a pretty good ball handler. He had the natural scoring instincts and he's a good shooter too. So definitely some wasted potential there. I think that if he like figures out a way to just not be terrible on defense, there's definitely a spot in NBA for him where he can just be this kind of like spot shooter who can sometimes come off screens and just make open 3-pointers. It's not particularly glamorous, but there's a lot of NBA players making a living right now who have been doing that for a long time. Like Tony Snell is one of them, Reggie Bullock is another, and I think I'll consider Sterling Brown maybe in that category too as well. Even like, Troy Daniels, who I haven't thought about it for a while, but he was in the league for a pretty long time too. And hey, if Ben McLemore can make his way back into the league, Kevin Knox can, cement himself a position too. But yeah, that's all I have though. I guess I could have done like Marvin Bagley and Mo Bamba too, but I've talked about Marvin Bagley enough on this like channel and Instagram page already. And I feel like Mo Bamba has got enough going on where it's pretty easy to see why he hasn't succeeded yet in NBA. For starters, stuck behind Nikola Vucevic, and 2, he just hasn't really progressed that much. Like, he was raw coming in and he's still raw right now. I'll probably do another version of this with like NBA players from like this year's draft, like the 2020 NBA draft, just to check in to see what's going on with the rookie class. But yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.